Today, we're going to take a look at the SEC. And let's face it, the SEC is absolutely pathetic. We're going to look at a couple of John Deaton tweets and also Rosalind Layton, one of my favorite writers, dropped a phenomenal article yesterday. We're going to go through it. Let's go.
And now, the XRP Minute with Chip on the Chain.
Chip here with the XRP Minute. If it's your first time here, like, subscribe, click that notification bell. That way you get notified anytime Jeff or I drop a new video. And you can also click below to go to the On the Chain Live. We stream live 6 days a week. Now, let's dive headfirst into the shallow end for maximum impact. Now, John Deaton put this tweet together here. He says the SEC, now this is after their response, the SEC's enforcement memorandum of law in opposition to Ripple's response to motion to intervene by the XRP holders that John Deaton filed. Now, in this document, the SEC attacks XRP holders for a second time. And again, did I say it? Yes, the SEC is pathetic. Now, Deaton says the SEC claims that XRP holders cannot be granted amicus because we're biased and we're not impartial and therefore must be denied. Someone better tell all the federal courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States, that they were wrong in granting amicus for the following: Planned Parenthood, right to life in abortion cases. What about LGBTQ allowed in the same-sex cases? Then we have insurance companies and the Obamacare cases. I could go on. It's granted to someone with strong interest in or views on the subject matter of an action, but not a party to the action? Wow. Exactly. Making some really strong points there and landing some great punches as usual. And then this one by Rosalind Layton. And again, she's on point every single time. Let's take a look at this. If you haven't seen it, let's go through it. And if you have, let's just jump in a second time. She says we need a Ripple test to stop the SEC's overreach on cryptocurrency. Jeff and I have talked a lot about this. And a lot of people have said, hey, what about the Ripple test? Because that's what this will probably be known as when we get through this whole thing. Now, this dropped yesterday, and of course, she's on point. She talks about the regulatory future of cryptocurrency seems to be destined to be decided by the courts, thanks to an ill-conceived lawsuit filed by the SEC. And she's right on point here. Ill-conceived, just out of nowhere, just dumb. Okay, and you can see the SEC doesn't know anything about the first rule of holes, and that is if you're in one, stop digging. They keep getting themselves further and further in the hole. Now, if Ripple's arguments prevail in the Southern District in New York and on appeal, this could go to the Supreme Court, a chance to review the 1946 Howey decision, which absolutely set the standard for what today constitutes a security. Now, she goes on to talk about the courtroom showdown. She's covered the SEC's case against Ripple Labs since it was filed by the SEC in December of 2020 because it had all the hallmarks of a classic enforcement overreach. Ripple and cryptocurrency investors have fought back with robust arguments, while the SEC has stumbled and exposed its former leaders' troubling conflicts of interest. And again, did I say it? Yeah, the SEC is pathetic. It looks like something bigger than a mere lawsuit. The historical moment adds urgency to resolving whether XRP is a currency or a security, a question which financial innovation makes difficult, but also demonstrates the SEC's abuse of its authority. And exactly what's going on here. The SEC overreaching, overstepping, and again, I think they've lost touch with what their role actually is, and she gets into that a little bit later. The total market cap of all crypto, including the XRP digital token, which is at the heart of the Ripple case, tops $2 trillion. The sum of these digital assets are now worth more than the total number of US dollars in circulation. Think about that. That's how big this marketplace is. There's not even that much USD circulating right now. That's how, and it's still small fry compared to other asset classes. Global companies like Goldman Sachs and PayPal, they're racing to adopt technology for consumer products. But more ominously, China's already rolled out a central digital bank currency called the digital yuan for domestic and commercial and consumer use on a big scale. You have MasterCard, they've opened talks to act as a financial bridge for China to expand the digital yuan's global network, export its applications, and compete against crypto in the US and the dollar and emerging digital economy. Then she goes on to talk about investors reject the agency designed to protect them. And we've talked an awful about this. That statement right there is massive. The investors reject the agency. Isn't that incredible? The XRP holders, the one people as investors we were supposed to be looked out for by the SEC, completely blew up. Clearly, it's time to re-examine the Howey test when it comes to cryptocurrencies. It's already obvious in a pretrial stage in which the court seemed to recognize that the complexity of building a payments network with distribution of digital currencies like XRP, not exactly the same thing as starting a company through an IPO. A fatal flaw has already been exposed in one of the SEC's central arguments. The agency insists that all of Ripple's sales of XRP may be one long unregistered securities offering since 2013, and that XRP really never had any utility other than being an investment contract in Ripple. Millions of XRP retail holders, us, you, them, around the world, many of whom have never heard of Ripple, immediately howled in disagreement, apparently to the agency's surprise. And now we talk about John Deaton, Rhode Island Attorney John Deaton filed a motion to intervene against the SEC on behalf of thousands of XRP retail holders and basically dismantle the SEC's arguments by detailing use cases for XRP which had absolutely no connection to Ripple. And if you remember, John put this tweet out there asking for use cases, and I was shocked because I had forgotten about a bunch of use cases. And the community really stepped up big time and really put that together. And John obviously did an amazing job. Now, the agency's response was, go ahead, attack Deaton's character and sweepingly argue that no retail holders should be allowed to intervene as their interests are amply represented by the defendants in the case. The agency created to defend the interests of retail investors ended up categorizing retail XRP holders as adversaries. Now, that's weird. How did we become the adversaries in the case? And how did we end up the one item of this whole thing, the SEC is supposed to look out for is us. And a higher court will likely struggle to conclude that the Howey test was meant to stretch quite this far. Absolutely. SEC's regard for due process. Ripple has also raised the basic question of due process. SEC says it has the right to levy $1 billion in fines over the sales that began 7 years ago before the case was filed. The problem is that those 7 years have a broad public record of refusal by the SEC to provide any clarity over XRP. SEC officials made many speeches, interviews in which they made distinct conclusions of the classifications of Bitcoin and Ether, but were frustratingly vague on XRP. How could Ripple know that XRP was a security if the agency itself didn't know until December of 2020? And worse yet, the two top execs, Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, are also named as defendants, even though Garlinghouse didn't join the company until 2015. Therefore, it isn't just the company's due process rights at stake, but two individuals raising bigger constitutional implications if the defendant's fair notice defense is permitted in trial. And again, the SEC really off the rails here, and I almost feel as though they're looking for a way out because they just are circling the drain. Also, she brings up the conflict of interest with former SEC leaders Clayton and Hinman that raised a bunch of troubling facts of what Deaton called a possible corrupt intent. Matter of public record, the SEC chair Clayton said in a market-moving interview in 2018 that BTC, Bitcoin, not a security, hedge fund One River Digital Asset Management, bet heavy on Bitcoin in those days. Now, this was before Clayton advanced the lawsuit in December 2020, plummeting the competing XRP, causing exchanges to suspend trading on it. One River, what did they do? They turned around and hired Jay Clayton right after he left the SEC. Nothing to see here. It's all cool. The optics are bad enough, but even worse for Clayton's former director of corporations finance, William Hinman. Deaton published public disclosure forms showed Hinman collected over $15 million in payments from the Ethereum-connected law firm Simpson Thacher over the 4 years, while he was basically at the SEC. So that's a pretty good gig if you can get it. Hinman's 2018 speech while at the SEC detailed why ETH is not a security, sending the token on a rocket ride to its current all-time high price. He left the SEC a few weeks before the Ripple case was filed, and he quickly rejoined Simpson Thacher, which sits on, conveniently, the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, an online petition at SEC Chair Gary Gensler by a crypto enthusiast calling for an investigation for the SEC's Inspector General into Clayton and Hinman's possible conflict of interest. And we talked about this because it gained over 30,000 signatures and it was submitted. The best solution? Immediate congressional action with the Biden administration hammering out the regulatory framework. Now, we already have the framework for this. We interviewed on the channel, on our live channel just a few days ago, Warren Davidson, who is the main chief sponsor of the Token Taxonomy Act. All they have to do is get it out of the Financial Services Committee and pass it. That's all they have to do. Get it out of the committee, put it on the House floor for a vote, send it to the Senate. Biden signs off on it, and we're golden. But meanwhile, all this back and forth riffraff, we already have a solution ready to go. If he settles the Ripple case, key questions could remain unresolved. While Ripple would likely receive relief from a settlement, there's little to stop the SEC from pulling the same stunt again. And this is part of the problem. It's like, yeah, okay, great, they settled. And this is probably one of the reasons that I allege that Ripple never settled this. Garlinghouse said that they tried to settle with the SEC. SEC would have none of it. But why would you settle, pay a potential fine, look bad, and then all of a sudden, guess what? You don't have any clarity. So then you turn around and then you get slapped the next month. And then she says here that more largely, some investors want to punish the SEC for its bad behavior and reduce the temptation for it to abuse its authority in the future. In any event, the SEC needs its own Ripple test to restore its credibility. And that's exactly what's going on here. The credibility is completely and utterly lost. And that's where we're at right now. This one here, I want to show this. This is Ripple. They said the number of people using blockchain-based wallets is roughly doubling every single year. And now this closely mimics the early growth of the internet, right? We have growth year over year, doubling the growth. And will digital payments see global growth in the coming years like never before? And they published a nice little blog post on this as well. So we're living in a great time right now. There's so much promise. The SEC is just off the rails. They are pathetic. And I just see the winds blowing Ripple's way. I've always been a champion for putting this in the courts. And if we have to go to the Supreme Court to let this thing get solved, let it get solved. But the 1946 Howey test is not going to be stretched that far, much like Rosalind alludes to in the article. I'm Chip. That's my take. Let me know your take down below. What did you like? What didn't you like? Was it something you agreed with? Is there something Ripple should do? What about the SEC? Will we get a settlement? That's my take. You guys got to give me yours. I'm Chip. This is the XRP Minute, and I am out of here. I'll see you on the next one. Maybe I won't see you on the next one. I'll see you on the next one.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.